Hello there YouTube, it's Roby3, back with another kicking action figure review. Today we have more 3 3/4 inch Marvel, half of which is still Iron Man. It is the Hasbro Marvel Universe Iron Man vs. Thor comic 2-pack. They did these 2-packs where it was like 2 different figures, often that were versus each other. There was like a Adam Warlock Thanos and like a Dark Spider-Man Sentry, some others. This one of my favorites, huh? It's actually very cool. Thor and Iron Man. This is based off of how they appeared in Thor issue 3, which was the comic that came with them. It's a pretty great issue where Iron Man tries to get Thor to register, because this is after Thor has come back to life. He missed Civil War, and Iron Man did some crazy stuff in Civil War, specifically stuff involving Thor's DNA with this cybernetic clone called Ragnarok. Wild stuff, folks. But Thor pretty much kicks Iron Man's ass in that issue. Kicks his tiny little tin tushy. He really does. Also, the Extremist Iron Man armor is one of my favorite armors. Objectively, probably one of the best Iron Man armors ever. And this is my favorite Thor look. This is my favorite look for Odin's son Thor, for sure. I really do love it. So getting this together was great, not only because they're 2 of my favorite looks for the characters, and it has one of my favorite Thor issues of all time bundled with it, which I have already sold and cannot show you, unfortunately. But when I got this, I was big into collecting 3 3/4 inch Iron Man, specifically because of the amazing Iron Man 2 3 3/4 inch line, and I needed the Extremist armor for my Hall of Armors display. So yeah, this is a 2-pack that I loved. Unfortunately, I do have to sell it to you. If you want it, check out my links down below. I don't know if it's going to be on eBay or in my physical store yet. I'll just have to see, because I do all the pricing and stuff after. But it is complete with accessories, but not the comic. Does not come with the comic, unfortunately. Once again, I already sold it. So, let's get into it. I'm going to show off the Iron Man first, since I've kind of been reviewing a lot of Iron Man figures recently. Just going to go with the theme there. It is the Extremist armor. The arc reactor is a little crooked. Can you see that? That's kind of weird that the arc reactor is crooked. I'm not a big fan of that. But otherwise, the sculpt is pretty solid. I always felt like these discs might pop off, but they never did. They never popped if he fell or anything, and he really could have come with a stand. A lot of Marvel Universes did. These did not. Thor is fine without it, but this guy kind of could have really used it. But yeah, he's all very metallic-y. Beautiful metallic red and metallic gold. None of this is just the color of the plastic he was sculpted in. He is painted. Great stuff. They even have a lot of shading in like the cracks of the armor all over. He's painted pretty damn well. And sculpted well, minus the crooked arc reactor, which has always bothered me. Anyway, articulation-wise, the head looks up incredibly far, which is great, because a lot of the Iron Man in the Iron Man 2 line couldn't look up like it all. So it's great that he can get in a good flight pose thanks to that head. It has a tiny bit of a wobble, which you know I like. Side to side, the shoulders do articulate in order to kind of help him raise his arms and stuff. If you raise his arms too high, the shoulder blade will pop off, and it can go flying. So, not shoulder blade, shoulder pad. So be careful of that. He has a bicep swivel, single elbow bend, rotation on the wrist. By the way, the arc reactors are painted on the hands and on the feet, fully detailed and painted on the bottom of the feet. That's kind of insane. Forgot to mention that. Good torso movement. Lots of movement on that torso, yo. Really good. The legs could go out further. They're kind of hindered by the little discs, but also they kind of sit in a bit of a weird way. Like they don't really super want to kick forward, but they should. And they don't really want to go back either, partially because of the hard plastic bussy and partially just because of the weird way they sit in there. I don't know. He has a double knee bend, which is great. I do like that. Up and down on his tiny little feeties. And the side to side is better than you'd think, because they have these little kind of fins hanging off his shins. But they're soft plastic, so it doesn't get in the way as much as you'd think, but no pivot or anything. So yeah, he could use a stand. Unfortunately. He is cool, though. I do like him. Now on to Thor, who I think is the MVP of this set. He also has weird crooked parts, though. See the wings on his head? They don't line up. Look at that. Look how far, far up that is. Why aren't they symmetrical? That's not a warped in package thing. That's a glued at different angles thing. It's actually very odd. I love the gunmetal, like chainmail and stuff he has going on, and the silver discs, blah, blah, blah. He looks really good. Lots of great sculpted lines, tiny little details all over him. I love the sculpt of the cape. And look at that, even painted tassels on the back of the boots. Fully detailed and painted under the cape. Look, the leather strap is painted. That's insane. And yes, I did know the head would come off. Boop. It's kind of good that it can pop off and easily go back on instead of just snapping, you know? But yeah, speaking of the head, it goes side to side, a little hindered by the hair, but not as much as you'd think. But it does want to pop off. Not much up and down, so you can't get a super great flying pose out of your Thor. But I guess it's okay if you add in the torso, but it can't really super get there. But the torso does have a lot of great even movement in it. What is up with the head today? I knew it would come off earlier, but I didn't think it would pop off repeatedly through the review. In and out on the arm, could come up higher. Forward and back, once again hindered by the cape. Bicep swivel, single elbow bend, wrist swivel. He does have a waist swivel, which is kind of rare on a lot of these 3 3/4 inch figures, so that's nice. In and out on the legs isn't as hindered as you'd think. Forward is not super hindered. He cannot go back, unfortunately. Hard plastic bussy under the bussy covering. And then you have a rotation on that silky thigh. You have a double knee bend, which doesn't super always work. You kind of got to really get that upper half in there because of his thick boots. But he also does have side to side on the feet, which are hindered by the discs, and up and down. And I wish that was black instead of gray. It's a little odd that they chose gray for that. So yeah, visually, I think he's the MVP. But when it comes to their movement, I guess he's maybe slightly better than Iron Man. He's the only one with an accessory. Iron Man doesn't have an accessory, but he has this really good Mjolnir. Like, very well sculpted, very well painted. If this was blown up to 6 inch, it would make a great one for a Marvel Legends Thor. And he holds it incredibly well, as you've seen, even after all these years out of package. So, yeah, that's it for these two guys. Now let's get into size comparisons. Of course, for our first size comparison, they have to be scaled with their own line. Here in the center is the Marvel Universe 014 Scarlet Spider, who I have recently reviewed and also is for sale. And I think they scale perfectly fine with him. The Extremis armor is it's a tighter armor, so it makes sense that Iron Man doesn't look as bulky as he does, but he is still a little bulkier physically than Scarlet Spider, and then, Thor is just beefed to hell. So yeah, that's really good. Scaling well with their own line is really all that matters, but as you can see here, they also scale well with the Hasbro Iron Man 2 3 3/4 inch line. This is the Hasbro Iron Man 2 3 3/4 inch Concept Series Ultimate Armor Iron Man. It's a Mark IV Iron Man that's been repainted a little to look like Ultimate Iron Man, color-wise. And as you can see, I made a really good choice getting this 2-pack to have an Extremis to go with all of my Iron Man 2 stuff, because they scale perfectly, and Thor looks great with them too. And even if Thor didn't scale well with him, it's still my favorite Thor outfit, I really wish I would have got the Return of Marvel Legends Thor like this forever ago. I never did. I should have done it. And for reference, here they are with a 6-inch Hasbro Marvel Legends Kane Scarlet Spider from the SPDR Build-A-Figure wave. This is the second Marvel Legends Kane Scarlet Spider. And yeah, obviously they don't scale well with him. It's not to be expected. But if you're the type of person that doesn't really care about scaling and just wants all their Marvel stuff together, this is kind of how Marvel Universe stuff will look with 6-inch Hasbro Marvel Legends. And if you're not the person that would mix scales like this is really just for reference. So all in all, what are my final thoughts on the Hasbro Marvel Universe versus comic Iron Man Thor 2-pack? It's pretty cool. The comic that comes with it is really good if you get it in package, but if you get it loose, just the figures, Thor has a really good Mjolnir. They work great with other 3 3/4 inch Marvel stuff from this era. Once again, my favorite Thor outfit, one of my favorite Iron Man armors. I really like these figures a lot. They do have their problems, but they are really good. Unfortunately, I do have to sell them because I'm just selling off all my 3 3/4 inch stuff, maybe with the exception of Power Rangers, because I have a couple 3 3/4 inch Power Rangers things I think I might want to keep, but it's all gotta go. I have this thing I'm doing where in order to buy a figure, I have to sell a figure. I can't keep every figure I've ever bought, you know? So check out my eBay page and my physical store if you want to pick these guys up, because they are very cool. This was the best time for 3 3/4 inch collectors ever. And they're a great part of that wonderful Marvel figure history. So that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description down below, including my stores, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.